your humble host was actually biased in a debate. First time ever. But it was necessary. When people come in and dude, when they try to do that bullshit, and I know when I'm being set up, I know when my channel's being set up, I've had them do this many, many, many times. I'm going to make an example out of them.
I thought it would make sense to make a video on the Garland Farms debate that I ended up having with Nick and unexpectedly with a man called Jim Bob. I went through what happened really in the aftermath. I went through what happened with Debug Your Brain, but for the TLDR, here is the video. What I'm going to try to do is give a rundown of what happened while addressing some of the critiques that were offered and try and embed them into it. So this all started when Garland Farms left a comment on one of my videos saying that people were asking him to destroy me in a debate. And I'm familiar with Garland Farms. He's well known for being anti-vegan, so when he came to me wanting to debate, I was really excited. As you can see in the comments, I offered a one-to-one Zoom call or Google Meet so that we could just debate, but he wanted to go on the Crucible. I'd seen that he'd been on the Crucible before, he'd debated 2 vegans just by himself. And I was fine to go on the Crucible. I don't really like debate panels, and especially not somewhere like the Crucible because I know how it goes down. But I thought, you know what, as long as I have a partner, then I'm not going to really feel outnumbered, so let's go for it. And it was under the assumption that he would also have a partner, but he said, I don't need a debate partner. I'd also asked him for a proposition. The first response he gave was about 23 lines long, so I tried to condense it down so that it's actually a tangible position. Funnily enough, and you'll see why this is funny later on if you didn't see the debate, but it was so that it was more concise and there wasn't so much room for confusion about what he's actually trying to say. He asked me if I was trying to limit his scope, which is also funny considering what ensued. But he eventually gave a proposition. It ended up changing, but that's fair enough. And I was happy to proceed with the proposition. I ended up choosing the debate partner, the Nutrivore, because I was like, you know what, you're really good at debates, so let's go and do this. I want to once and for all go into a debate with Garland Farms and show that the things that he says cannot be substantiated. Now, before we move on, one of the criticisms was, look, Garland Farms isn't good at debate. Why did you debate him? I didn't just go up to him and make him debate me or anything like that. If people don't want to debate, that's absolutely fine. But if somebody challenges me to a debate and is so bold as to say, oh, people have told me to destroy you, what do you expect me to do? Especially when they're spouting so much anti-vegan nonsense, of course I'm going to want to get into a debate with them and show how their arguments or their claims just don't hold up. So then we come to the day of the debate. Already I'm just kind of annoyed, and I get really annoyed like during the debate because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I was really hoping for us to actually get into the argument, get into the data, but he seemed to not want to get off the first question. The debate began with him, saying stuff that we're playing a game, we're really slippery, all of this stuff. And at the time I was just like, where is this coming from? But I'm really annoyed at myself that I wasn't awake and sharp enough to really understand what was going on at the time, because they painted it as if we'd done something really slippery by not asking if this was an argument from hypocrisy before the debate began, which one isn't true, because when we were in the back room before the debate, Nick actually said, oh yeah, this seems like an argument from hypocrisy, and Garland said nothing. Luckily, Nick was actually smart enough to be recording at this point so that he could prove this actually happened.
Real quick, Mr. Farms. I just want to make sure that I get this proposition down correctly. I was talking with Nick briefly. He's in the background. I'll pull him in if I need to, but when he read it off to me, if I was going to condense it, it would be that you think that that farming meat is more ethical than vegan farming. Is it something akin to that, or can you kind of lay it out better for me?
Yeah, it's just it's very similar to the one before. It's the crop agriculture that delivers the items on the vegan menu is much less, if you go by the ethics that vegans espouse, then the crop agriculture would be much less ethical than the animal agriculture that produces the meat.
Okay, I see. All right. Now I at least understand the proposal. And then Nick, do you agree? You agree to that proposal, that proposition?
Yeah, it just sounds like kind of like a hypocrisy critique. Just that vegans are saying that they value one thing and then they're behaving in a way that seems antithetical to those values. It seems like just a standard kind of hypocrisy critique.
Okay, gotcha. All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Which is further annoying as well, because they assumed such ill intentions of me. But I thought it was going to go pretty fine. I didn't think it was going to be this horrible, oh, I think you're going to do some deviant stuff, so I'm just going to evade this entire time. So I wasn't recording. I didn't think that would be anything. But again, as I was saying, my one regret is that I wasn't sharp enough at the time to understand, hang on, if you're so upset that we didn't sort this out pre-debate, then where the fuck was my email notifying me that Jim Bob was actually going to be a debate partner? It's fine if you want to have a debate partner. In fact, it was going to be part of my opening statement that I thought it was a mistake for him to not have one. But to spring it up on us, especially when you apparently have such a problem with things not happening before the debate, what's your problem then? What I wish I did so that we could get the conversation actually moving forward was to say, look, if you have such a problem with things not being said before the debate, then I request that you remove Jim Bob, because that was not agreed upon before the debate. And either he would have had to have gone, or Garland wouldn't have wanted him to leave, so he would finally actually address the point. People were wondering why Nick especially was so caught up on Garland actually addressing the first question about his own proposition. Because as you know, if you've seen the debate, I think a couple of times I actually tried to move it forward. I was like, look, if he's not going to answer, let's just assume it is. You know what then? Let's play a game. Nick, this is an argument from hypocrisy. Garland doesn't want to say. Should we do it that way? But I understand why Nick did that. You know, we're in a debate. If you can't actually answer questions about your own proposition, which the burden of proof is on you to substantiate the claims that you've made, so you're going to be immediately on the defense as the one who made the proposition in that debate, then I could see why he wouldn't want to move it forward. Another issue is that Garland kept stating that we had changed the proposition somehow. It was as if he didn't maybe know what hypocrisy meant, even though I tried to explain to him in some form, you know, what we were trying to say or where his proposition would lead. But just to be clear, the one that I was reading out, he agreed that that was the proposition. And just in case he does mean that that wasn't his proposition, he wrote it in an email to me. And if he really doesn't think it's some sort of argument from hypocrisy, then the first proposition he wrote out to me that was like 23 lines long, if you read the end part of it, you tell me if you think it's some sort of unfair assumption to believe it's some sort of argument from hypocrisy. And Jim Bob, the fourth will, or should I say fifth will, because the moderator was kind of a debate partner to Garland, and we'll go through that in a bit. But the fifth will seemingly was put in there just to try and switch the burden of proof. He really brought no value to the table. He just tried to distract from the actual question that was posed to Garland multiple times. At one point he asked me what my pronouns were. I don't know.
I'm only here to talk about the proposition. I'm not here to talk about me.
Your
I'm not here to talk
he,
about
she.
the conversation. I'm not here to talk about anything that's tangential to the subject that we're here to talk about.
What are your pronouns?
Is it an argument from hypocrisy? Yes or no?
I just said if it was.
No,
I'm not
I want to
interested
know
in
if- I
hypotheticals
wanna know
here. I'm
from
not
Garland-
interested in that.
yeah.
It's not a clarifying question. I don't give a fuck about
L,
I've
L, what are
told-
your pronouns?
I've told you again and again.
I don't know what the fuck that's got to do with Garland's proposition, but okay. He was taking a dig at my accent.
Because you're cowards and you
Uh,
can't take a
No,
position.
No.
you've been in many
Harry
debates.
Potter!
We
Are
are
you
not
okay?
taking a position.
Yeah,
And
Are
we
you
are
on
not
crack? And his bullshit while we were actually trying to have a debate, paired with my sleep deprivation and lost patience, subsequently ended up in me asking him not to be a cunt for 5 moments, and later asking him if he was on crack. For some, I might regret doing that, but not for Jim Bob. He even tried to bring up pre-sub shit in the debate.
If there's some relationship between the former and the latter of that statement,
Mhm.
right? That there's some kind of inconsistency or hypocrisy, right? I'm saying it's worse than that. That the first part of the position that we ought not harm animals has no justification to begin with.
Oh no, we're not going down that road.
I know, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what a vegan position would be.
Well,
But
no,
you're
I'm not
gonna
here to
take
defend
that.
it. I'm not here
Yeah.
to defend.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not here
know.
to defend a position, and I actually
Yeah.
don't think that's what Garland meant when he wrote this.
I
I don't
know
think
that.
Garland's taking a meta-ethical position. I think this is you trying to derail the conversation
Yeah.
into some pre-sub bullshit.
Yeah.
No, if there's a
Jim Bob
position at
likes
all,
doing that.
no, if
No,
there's a
it's
di-
very transparent
No, no.
that
It's
that's
Very
what he's
Jim
doing.
Bob. It's classic Jim. It's just,
No, listen,
and we're
It's really
slippery.
classic
We're
fucking
slippery.
precept
Yeah.
nonsense.
guys, you don't get away from it. You know why? Because the moment you try to create some normative claim that X equals harm, right?
Wait,
Listen,
wait,
hold on.
wait.
No, I'm talking, Nick.
Have
Shut
we
up.
made a
Shut up.
claim?
Hey, no, shut up. I'm talking.
Have we made
Shut
a claim?
up.
It just seemed to me clearly like he was put in to distract from the actual debate. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but what I do know is Andrew, the moderator, actually had a hand in how the debate would go. He even said as much himself. He had an idea of how the debate would go. And given that he took certain actions, I think it was one of those cases where he wanted to be proven right so much that he actually had a hand in how it went down and made it happen.
So just letting you guys know, like, this is how it works in real time. Garland didn't know that, and Garland's not gauged in the philosophy growing bullshit like all of us are. So that's why I brought in Jim Bob, to make it fair across the board so that we would understand how this works in real time. Thank you so much. By the way, can we get some rounds of applause? Just so that, poor Garland, like, he didn't have any idea. I didn't tell him I was bringing Jim Bob on. Just so you guys know, I didn't tell him. But I know that other fucking asshole, Nick. Okay, I know who he is. I know the fucking community these guys come from. And I know a setup when I see a setup. I can smell that shit 10 miles away. You can't get one over on me if your fucking life depends on it. So I called up old Jim Bob a couple days before the debate, and I said, let me tell you what these fuckers are going to do. They're going to not take a position on nothing. And then when they get in, they're suddenly going to be confused about the proposition. My exact words, right, Jim Bob?
Yep.
And what happened?
Exactly.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, all of you out there in Crucible land, before I wrap it up, understand something. You witnessed maybe Crucible history for the first time. Your humble host was actually biased in a debate. First time ever. But it was necessary. When people come in and dude, when they try to do that bullshit, and I know when I'm being set up, I know when my channel's being set up, I've had them do this many times. I'm going to make an example out of them.
If I were a moderator, I would be very upset by myself for what I'd done. A moderator is supposed to be impartial, otherwise what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you actually here? Some people can't moderate. I'm one of those people. If I see something and I don't agree with it, I kind of have to speak up. So that's why I don't take roles that require impartiality. I'd like to have a go at being a mod again, maybe one day, but yeah, some people aren't cut out for it, and I don't think Andrew is when it comes to the anti-vegan thing. I've seen his stuff before, and he's sometimes moderated really well, and then other times he's let his opinion get in the way too much. Given the fact that he added somebody without our prior knowledge, kind of put us on the spot, and I think they knew that we were just going to be like, all right, yeah, bring him on, because if he didn't, we would look like we were cowering away or something like that. And that was my thought in the split second that he said, oh yeah, we're gonna bring someone else on. They came on. I was like, can I really say no right now? Which, again, the benefit of hindsight, people were like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's like, yeah, I didn't know that Garland would just act as if, the assumption that we had, the question that we gave wasn't such a clear assumption baked into the proposition, and that he would act as if we'd done something so slippery by not consulting beforehand about that assumption. And if other people have fallen for this, really? I know some people do this, and this consequently means that a lot of debates don't happen for these people. But, the whole proposition that was given, am I really meant to go the whole way through and go, what do you mean by vegan? What do you mean by abolish? What do you mean by animal agriculture? What do you mean by this? There are obviously words in that proposition that we just take and assume to be a certain way. And then going forward with the debate as you go through, oh, so, this is the case, right? Especially as we'd just been in the back room and Nick had already clarified this to Garland, and then he blew out in the actual debate. He said nothing in the back room. He was as quiet as anything. But if I had the gift of psychic powers, I would have been prepared to be like, oh, okay, you have a problem with that? Right, Jim Bob can go then. See you later. Unfortunately, my psychic powers haven't yet kicked in. So yeah, Andrew had a hand in that. He also took it upon himself to give his opinions about me, how the debate would go, my literacy in the philosophical realm. Yeah.
The reason that I think that most of the Ask Yourself community doesn't take positions, or always moral anti-realist, take no positions on anything, is that way the burden is always on whoever they're debating with.
You're assuming
That's
slippery
the-
intent
that's
because
the
he's
goal.
part of an Ask Yourself community. I see what's happening. So I'm
I'm assuming
Bob
intent because I wrote this out and it happened exactly as I wrote it
no,
out.
like this is what this is about then. Like that's why Jim Bob's in here. Like literally, all Nick did
Look,
at the start. Yeah, sorry, Nick, you go.
Well, no,
No, you
the
can
reason
go
Jim
ahead.
Bob's here is because I think personally, vegan gays,
Mhm.
that you're not good enough at philosophy to pull off the proposition to get him to switch it. So you had Nick come in because he's good enough at philosophy in order to push that. And so Jim Bob was here as a counter because Garland Farms isn't a philosopher.
Yeah, why wouldn't I bring in someone who's better than me? That just makes sense.
And why wouldn't Garland? That makes sense.
Well,
And
Garland
philosophy.
said to be fair, Garland did.
That's
he said
true.
I didn't need
Garland
a debate
did. Garland
partner.
did say that, but the
So
second I knew,
it's funny.
there was
The
no
slippery stuff has
position on the other
happened
side.
really over there, arguably, and you're just assuming this slipperiness from our behavior. When all we've done is ask for a question.
You and Nick already agreed to the proposition.
Yeah,
You've
and
already
all we-
agreed to the proposition.
Okay, you know what?
If we stuck to that proposition, then I would not need a partner. But I knew that Nick was going to try to play games.
Wait, hang
I
on.
wasn't sure exactly he was going to actually start with the proposition though. So I guess Andrew knew exactly what he was talking about.
Alluding to me doing something weird by bringing on somebody who's good at debating. Like, acting as if we really were doing something strange by like apparently not having this dealt with before the debate, even though he was in the back room and asked us and heard Nick say those things.
we're actually out of time for the debate. We've argued so much over the proposition.
well done
for the
for
debate.
Garland
dodging.
couldn't answer a simple question.
Yeah.
We never got to the debate. Well,
This was a good dodge.
I feel like there was some sneaky stuff going on. Just saying. Here's my question to you. Were you unsure about the proposition of the debate coming into the debate?
Yeah, I wasn't quite clear on it.
Then why didn't you
would you do
clarify
that?
the proposition until we got here?
Slippery.
Unless
I don't care.
the point of it was to tie him up in the proposition instead of in the debate. That's very strange to me.
Totally
Well,
bad faith, by the way. You're not
I'm
you're
here.
not making a clarification on the proposition, but you're willing to enter a debate without being clarified, without clarifying it.
I'm
That's just
here
sneaky.
and I'm asking for clarification. Can it be rendered?
Yeah, but why
please?
I'm just asking you this because I am curious.
Slippery.
Why didn't you ask for the clarification?
I'm
pre-debate?
not
He
interested
did
in
say it
talking
the
about the
back
meta.
room.
I'm
He was clearly picking a side, and yeah, as a moderator, like, what the hell is the point of you being there other than to construct debates where like one side really does have an advantage? I can really see why Garland wanted to be on the Crucible. And the reason Nick as well was trying to press on this is because he wanted to see if there was a dissonance that Garland could display between vegan values and vegan actions. We wanted to know why Garland really thought that we should be concerned as vegans with the things that he was speaking about. He finally got around to saying it was something to do with ignorance, the fact that he couldn't find a video I'd ever made about crop deaths. I've spoken about crop deaths multiple times, especially on my live streams, but I've never made a dedicated video. But if Garland's so worried it's all about, oh, just informing vegans about the crop deaths, even though, like, it's clear he thinks we're hypocrites, then don't worry, Garland. I will be making a dedicated crop deaths video just for you, and it will feature Debunk Your Brain and Chris Hines. Chris Hines, by the way, you may be familiar with that name because he's someone who's wrecked you multiple times in the comment section, and you've now blocked him. But yeah, it was a shame. It really is annoying when someone's just so clearly mistrusting of you and they just act like you're conniving when all you want to do is just show that they're wrong about something. So you want them to actually get to the point so that you can dismantle it piece by piece. I didn't stay up at 2 o'clock in the morning to obfuscate. I stayed up so he could defend his proposition. Instead, he wouldn't answer the first question about his own frickin' prop. And luckily for him, he didn't have to learn the hard way that that wouldn't go down well, because he had his backup who liked him so much that they decided to bring some backup in for him, even without him knowing. Which is hilarious coming from the two people who called us slippery. And I tried to explain multiple times exactly, why we would even be asking that question, why the assumption would be there. Either the Crucible crew knew that he'd made a proposition, so he had to defend it, and that it was going to be an enormous task to be able to actually substantiate his claim. So they brought on Jim Bob to try and burden of proof shift, to try and take us down a hole instead, tried to do whatever they possibly could to fill up that time slot so that he didn't actually have to substantiate his claims. Or he's just so anti-vegan, like not even of the philosophy, but of the actual people, that he just thinks they're so mistrusting, they're so conniving, they're so evil, that he'd looked at either me or Nick and just thought, like, just the one thing that set him off, and it in his mind validated his idea that we were just these conniving evil people. And then he shut down. He just didn't want to even leverage a small portion, and because he's new to debates, he doesn't maybe actually understand that that was on him to substantiate, that he'd put himself in a position where he had to be on the defense and he didn't like it. But as I said, I will make the crop deaths video just for Garland and everybody else concerned, because some people seem to think that the vegan side didn't actually have the data, didn't actually have the argument, and that instead we were trying not to actually get to the discussion, which I thought was hilarious. They did a really good job of projecting, so like people fell for it.
Well, you look like a couple of gaslighters. Your gaslighting skills
the
absolutely
gaslighting, it's classic, really.
You're a
gaslighter, says the gaslighter. So I'll be making that very soon, do expect that. And as I said, it will be with Debug Your Brain and Chris Hines. But yeah, I've never been on a debate panel, that was my first time, and I'd seen Crucible debates, and I thought, God, that would be pretty awful as a vegan to go on there, and I witnessed it firsthand. It is indeed awful if you are a vegan to go on there. It would have been so much better if it was on like a platform like Modern Day Debate. I think they do a really good job of being impartial for the most part. But yeah, debate panels are a freaking mess, and as you know from my debates, they're not really debates. People come on and talk. And it's much more fun, it's much more pleasant. Like, as much as it's, you know, it's not that great to be up against someone who disagrees with you and might not even like you, especially if you're a creator. They come on and think, oh my God, you're a bit of a dick. It's always, there's some cortisol there, right? But when you know someone's there and they absolutely despise you and the moderator is on their side, it's warfare. It's not pleasant. It's not a great place to be. So yeah, it wasn't nice, but it could have been so much better if Garland would have actually just explained, oh no, I don't think it's hypocrisy, or yes, I do actually think it's hypocrisy, and been able to go through precisely what he was saying and why a vegan specifically should be concerned with this, because he addresses this critique specifically at vegans. So is it really wild to assume, oh yeah, he thinks we're hypocritical? I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I do hope you're well. Please let me know what you think down below. I think I've addressed everything in here, but if I haven't, let me know down below. And expect a crop desk though video very soon.